Magnum Prime here, and today we're taking a look at TFC Toys Mammon, which is their masterpiece take on Blot of Terracon fame. If you're new to my channel, hello and welcome. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Okay, here we go. So for accessories we have this, which looks horrible, frankly. It whereas the gaudy colours on the bot work because of they just do, this doesn't. It looks terrible. I don't know, something about the clash of colours. It feels a little bit cheap. It's got sculpted detail on there, so in fairness, there is that. But it's I think some of the red as well. It's not finished very nicely. You can kind of see paint splodges. There's a bit of bit of QC there in that respect. It's obviously going to be the part of the bigger gun for the bigger bot, so maybe that's why it's so big and chunky. But yeah, it doesn't look very good. So it'll sit in hand fine, it won't wobble out or anything, very snug, so it works in that respect, but it doesn't look very good. It looks like a massive super soaker or something like that. So yeah, it's there you go. Final score, 5 out of 10. So the head is on a ball peg, and we'll give you a bit of a look up, a bit of a look down, and we'll obviously wobble all the way around. You've got ratcheted shoulders, which will give you the full rotation all the way around. There is a pin joint, which will extend all the way out to the side. And then you've also, just due to the way the shoulders work, you've got a bit of a butterfly effect as well, so that's pretty good. The elbows are on a double hinge, and you've got a bicep swivel. The hands have got wrist rotation, but there's no articulation in the fingers. They are all one kind of fused together lump. But the way they've done it, if you extend it outwards, he's got a kind of a pointing finger, but that also acts as a trigger finger as well. So that's a good way to do it if you're not going to fully articulate the fingers. Down at the waist, you've got a full waist rotation, but there's no ab crunch. You've got hip skirts on either side, individual. You've got a soft sounding ratchet, it's very thin sounding actually, which will extend nearly all the way out to the front, will extend all the way to the back. You have to move this if you want to do that though. And then it's got a much chunkier sounding ratchet out to the side, which is interesting. The upper thigh has got a swivel, and then at the knee has got a ratchet, which will give you a 90 degree. Down at the feet, these are on ball pegs, so you've got good rocker side to side, but also you've got tilt backwards and forwards as well. So the articulation is really good actually on this guy. He's not perfect, but he is very, very good. 9 out of 10. In terms of size comparisons, here he is with MP36. I think this is probably about right. I think, your Limbot should be roughly around the midriff or chest height of the leader figures. So I think this is pretty good. Stylistically, very different, but height-wise, I think is very good. For leg mode, I thought it'd be worth doing a quick comparison with MMC's Swindle, just to show the size actually. So Abominus is advertised at 20 inches, 50 centimeters, which I think is about the height of Assaultus. You can see he's slightly shorter than Swindle there, but obviously there's the proportions of the rest of the bot to take into account. So there we go, just thought that was worth showing. In terms of leg mode, it's very, very solid and sturdy this. The foot in particular gives it a lot of solidity and strength and balance and all those kind of things. So hopefully the rest of the combiner lives up to it. So in terms of presence, this figure bizarrely has bags of it when I feel like he shouldn't, but he does. He looks fantastic. The colours shouldn't work at all, but they do. They're just an obnoxious clash that somehow comes together to kind of create something gaudy and fantastic and wonderful looking. You've got light piping, which ordinarily I think looks cheap, and particularly when you've got a great big lump of different coloured plastic on the back of the head. But the clash of it with all the other colours somehow makes that work. And in fact, it's a pretty good piping effect. When you've got a bit of light coming through there, it does set it off quite nicely. And I think what makes this figure is this kind of stylized look that they've given it. It's not a kind of straight up G1 toon effect. This is very stylized, heavily stylized. And I think it's that kind of makes it work. So like proportionally, from the front, I think he looks very good, but there are some places where, in a normal setting you wouldn't. So like the arms are very spindly, and you've got this kind of weird hinge thing on the top for the shoulders. But because of the stylized effect of this swooping up to here and then these kind of chunky forearms, somehow it makes that work. And it flows through on the rest of the figure as well. You know, you've got, for example, like the backpack is the kind of the biggie. That, you know, is quite big compared to the rest of the figure. But it kind of looks like a jetpack with all these piping bits and kind of bells and whistles and the translucent effect on the back. So it kind of makes it work. You've just got lots of detail and sculpt. And do you know what? The big thing about it is the face sculpt. It's really good. It is proper good. It's not fussy, it's not flash, it's not painted, but it's just done really, really well. And overall, this figure has bags of character, and that's what makes it have great presence. 9 out of 10. So in terms of quality, there is a tale of two extremes with this figure for both the paint and the build. In terms of paint, most of the colours of the figure are just plastic, so the dark blues and the purples and yeah, those two colours in fact. The rest of it is accented stuff, whether it's silver or red or translucent effects that are on there. So the silver is brilliant. It's absolutely well applied, thoroughly high-grade stuff and really nicely finished. The red, however, is very splodgy and kind of bleeds over in lots of places. It doesn't look very good, and I don't know why. It's just, oh, there, look, you can kind of see there's lots of this kind of thing, just splodge. So there is that. It's like a real mix of stuff. But then, you know, contrast it with the painted silver detail in here. Really, really well done. So very strange. Build-wise, the plastic is very good. It's proper good stuff, really nicely built. You've got ratchets and really strong joints, and even this kind of ratchet, which sounds a bit soft and is a little bit soft, it does the job for the figure. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't need to be any more than what it is, because it's well distributed in weight terms. So that's fine. All of that stuff's good. But contrast that with some of the kind of joints where, like for example, when you move this thing cracks apart. It's not very well built. There are a couple of bits on this figure that just sort of fall off. So these on the back of the legs will just come off at will. They could have been glued. And then there's a little piece under the animal neck that just sort of that comes off. That could have been glued as well. So it's a mix of stuff across the board. And you know, I can't give it a good quality score. It's like a near miss, because these things probably been quite easy to kind of rectify, but they haven't. So there we go, 6 out of 10. So in terms of transformation, this isn't what you would call a smooth, fluid, intuitive and fun experience. In fact, this figure will fight you every step of the way in the transformation process. It's not particularly complicated. It's a bit busy at first. However, once you go through it a couple of times, it is actually a relatively simple design scheme. You know, flip the legs over onto the backpack, maneuver the arms around, and you kind of do a swap over with the heads. Straightforward stuff. But all of the mechanisms that are in here, they're quite tough, they're quite tight. You've got, particularly on the legs, multiple ratchets that you kind of maneuver into just the right place in order to tab everything in. And once everything is tabbed in, it is very secure and very snug everywhere. But getting there is an absolute pain, and quite literally painful actually on the fingers. There's some sharp bits on this figure. So overall, transformation, it works, but I think it could have been designed to be a little bit smoother. 6 out of 10. Okay, in terms of alt mode, it's a similar kind of thing to the bot mode, to be honest. It looks so obnoxious and awful that it becomes brilliant. It goes back out the other side. I think it looks absolutely cracking. I won't go over too much the colours because we've already covered those. But, you know, for me, I think it just looks ace, frankly. Somehow it works. Proportionally, it's very good at being Blot with the big claws. These are all articulated. You can maneuver the horns on the helmet there. It's got a kind of spinny saw blade gimmick on the nose. The one on the chin doesn't work properly. Of course it doesn't. The legs are a bit funny. These are kind of wobbly at the side. They kind of slide in and out, but it doesn't stop it being stable in any way. It's just a bit of an annoying thing when you're kind of picking it up. Otherwise, it is very secure. It's very stable, despite the kind of weird, wonky bulkiness of it. Yeah, I think it kind of is quite good, actually. This is a good stylized Blot. 9 out of 10. So there we have it. Adding it all together, he gets a final score of 7.3 out of 10. And there are plenty of things that are frankly terrible about this figure, particularly in the quality department, but also in the transformation and the engineering. On the plus side, he's very poseable. I think he's got bags of presence. He looks fantastic in both bot mode and alt mode. Where does that leave it? I don't know. I quite like it. I'm quite interested to see how the rest of this set turns out. I'm particularly impressed with the leg mode. I think it's very solid and very sturdy. Of course, that doesn't mean anything for the rest of the figure, because if the rest of the combiner's got floppy combiner ratchets and all of those kind of things, then frankly that doesn't mean much. However, there is some solidity in that leg, so we'll go with that for now. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the review. Thanks for watching. Take care, please subscribe, and bye for now.